Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kind of hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarosinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarosinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Brayton. Hey,
I was just saying hi
to
the people out there in podcast land.
You got me out of my flow.
So this week
we're with Darkest Hour hitting. We're looking at our top 5 biopics.
Biopic.
Biopic.
It flows better.
Makes me sound more intelligent, I feel like.
Well, that's I think why people say biopic, but it is a biographical picture. So if you think of it as being written with a hyphen.
Okay.
If it's written with a hyphen, no one would ever pronounce it biopic.
Plus, I guess biopic makes it sound like it's some sort of vision disease.
Biopic to me sounds like they've done a biopsy and like this is the graphical representation of the biopsy.
I was definitely not going to call it a biopic. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, what? Let's see. What? I'm trying to figure out how to segue this into Thanksgiving, and I don't have anything.
You know. So Thanksgiving happened. Happy Thanksgiving to our American listeners.
Speaking of
happy. Turkey. Not the day you got off work to eat food day to everyone who's not American, and I feel sorry for you because we ate tons of food.
What'd you eat?
Food. I ate turkey, I ate stuffing, I ate 4 different kinds of dessert, all of which I personally baked because unlike you, Carrie, my family believes that I'm an excellent baker.
That's interesting.
Because I am an excellent baker.
Were they like meat pies or something?
They were pumpkin pie, apple pie, pumpkin cheesecake, and a new recipe this year, a fig and walnut tart.
Oh my goodness!
They sound good.
We kept it low key. This usually we go to Carrie. I have a big family. I have 7 aunts and uncles, and we all convene at not random locations, but it's varied over the years. But this year it was just
there was usually like 40 of us.
Intimate family.
And this was my mom's first year. My mom's almost 70. This was her first year hosting, and she was really excited about it. I'm never going to tell her it was terrible. Like,
does your mom listen to our show?
No, thankfully. She's like, I'm worried that you'd say something rude. So
she's right.
I mean, I think she is. So the thing is, it's not the same without the hustle and bustle and people, like weird Uncle Dale wasn't there to talk politics with me. I didn't have, I actually do have an Uncle Dale who's weird, so I shouldn't have used that name. His name is actually Peter, but there's just, you need like the strangeness of groups. And I feel like with it, when it was really small, it was kind of sad and sleepy.
Very sleepy.
Rob had like a beer and a half and took a nap.
Thanksgiving, so the best kind. I don't care for the family interaction part of it.
Really?
I always find it very stressful.
Oh, I love it. I love the stress of holidays. So, yeah, I don't know.
I did want to say I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for our listeners.
Well, that makes
I was not thankful for you until just a couple weeks ago when I realized how hard your job is, and now I am.
It takes something like that, though. It takes a...
It's like those 50s sitcoms where the dad stays at home for a week and the mom has to go to work, and the mom does a really good job, and the dad sets the kids on fire, and it's wacky.
It's kind of fun,
Mr. Tim.
But you don't want to do it all the time. Yeah.
Well, let's. I know we watched some movies, even though it was Thanksgiving, and we got in a lot of theater watching, Care.
Nice.
So let's jump into our worth mentioning segment. What is the worth mentioning segment of the movies we've seen since the last episode? Which are the ones we wanted to talk about most? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We share them either way. How many movies, Care? Did you see any more than the 3 that I saw in theater?
No.
All right.
But I saw 3 theater movies in 1 week for us is intense.
And we traded off, Tim. Like we
What one did I see by myself again?
You went to go see Justice League with your dad.
Oh yeah. Murder on the Orient Express I saw alone, and Coco I saw with a group.
That's true. We did see that together.
Yeah. So I saw 3.
Interesting. We'll get back to that. Tim, how many movies did you see?
I only saw 5. I was a grad student. I had a paper that was due the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so I pretty much spent the week writing, which is why you may have noticed there's not that much in the way of reviews available on the site. So I'm going to try to redress that in the weeks to come before I become a grad student again in a couple weeks. I want to get caught up.
Well, one of the reviews that you left off with was Justice League, Care. So do you want to talk about that? We'll compare notes with Tim and me.
I'm excited to talk to you guys about this. So I didn't read Tim's review because I was worried that it would squash my dreams. But Did you love it? Because it was so good.
I 100% did not love it at all.
Is that sarcasm?
No.
Let me set this up a little bit. Carrie has not seen Man of Steel
I didn't need to see it.
or Batman v Superman.
I didn't need that one either.
And she went into this cold.
Okay.
But I knew everything.
Maybe that's the secret.
I knew everything that was happening. So Rob goes into it.
Interestingly, I did see Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and I didn't know everything that was happening.
No,
so I'm very
I
excited.
felt good. So this is a movie that Tim apparently didn't like as much as I did, but I went to go see it with my dad. It's directed by Zack Snyder.
Yep.
And
With
written by...
with some uncredited pinch hitting by Joss Whedon.
Okay. And Chris Terrio wrote it?
Yeah, Chris Terrio and Joss Whedon wrote 2 different drafts of the screenplay.
Yeah. So it's really good. Did you
Really?
like it, Rob?
No,
So,
I did not.
What?
You go first. You say
right,
why you
all
liked it,
right.
and then I'm going to tear you down.
So you guys... Hey!
This movie's in need of love. I don't think we got to tear down any members of the 30% of people who actually
So this
like
stars
Justice League.
Gal Gadot. Wonder Woman's
Does
in
it
this.
star her? Does it star
Oh, she
her?
has like
It
a...
features her
Features her.
prominently.
Yeah,
Features her
probably
prominently.
after reshoots, but
She was... So she's really good in this. Ben Affleck, super worried that he was going to be bad. Probably an unpopular opinion. Better than Christian Bale for sure.
Interesting.
yeah, that's an unpopular.
He's so much better he's already better in Batman v Superman than he is in Justice League, I'd say.
Wait. Oh, because he was in that one
He was
too.
in that one.
Oh,
He
right.
was the Batman who
Okay. So So which one was he better in?
I think he's better in Batman v Superman.
Oh, okay, whatever. So anyway, Jason Momoa is in this. Is it Mamoa? Is Aquaman? Was he in any of the other ones?
No, this is his first one.
Well, he kind of...
He puts in like a one-shot, non-speaking cameo.
Okay. Also a great Aquaman. Ezra Miller is the Flash. He's the guy from The Perks of Being the Wallflower.
He is.
Hilarious balls. Amaze balls?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Sorry. He was so funny
Did
and
we see
so
his
good.
balls? Because I feel like if I'd seen his balls, I'd be at least slightly more pro the movie.
I meant to say amaze balls. Those 2 words got combined.
I bet he was Joss Whedon's favorite.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah.
You can just tell from the dialogue.
Yeah.
He's hysterical, and his mannerisms and facial expressions in this movie are hilarious. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about the plot. So there's this really bad guy who's out there who wants to take over the entire world, and all of these people that I just mentioned have to team up, and
They have
then
to form a league.
They form like
A
of justice,
league of justice.
right? And then they come together and they have to save the world against this bad guy, and they're trying to combat.
What's the bad guy's name? You remember his name?
Horny? Not the word I wish I would have said if I could have come up with another name.
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. Yes.
I had no idea what his deal. It's still a mystery to me.
He's from one of the weirdest arcs in the history of DC Comics. The whole plot is taken from one of the all-time weirdest arcs in DC Comics, the Fourth World saga from the early 70s.
But I thought the whole plot. So you sometimes I think these DC movies can get all over the place, and you have all these different storylines, and it gets confusing, and there's so much going on. And this was just focused on one really specific goal that the team had to focus on to come together. I thought the action sequence is really good, and the Amazonian scene with all the Amazons coming back.
The
Awesome.
Amazon scene was the part of the movie I felt best about.
We're in agreement.
Some of the action choreography involving shooting the arrow to catch it and then
Yeah, that was cool.
So
That
good.
was good stuff.
So
That was good
good.
stuff.
Every time I see them, I'm like, Carrie, stop eating cheese and drinking so much. Like, I think I could look like them.
I was getting a little confused because I thought maybe that you thought you saw Justice League, but in fact you saw Thor Ragnarok again.
No,
Because the movie you're describing is at odds with my experience of Justice League.
I don't know why I liked it so much.
I'll pick on it just a little bit. My issues with it were it tried to pack way too much in, which I was pleased with, a short running time, but that was a studio mandated running time versus a naturally kind of organic.
Oh yeah, Zack Snyder had another 3-hour movie in him.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I maybe that's what's missing in this. And
Yeah.
I haven't seen the director's cut of Batman v Superman, but I've heard that is tremendously better. Seeing the director's cut, maybe this will benefit from some sort of director's cut as well. It was just trying to force too much.
I was fine with it.
Into a little.
My dad loved it too. My dad was like, "That was really good." I don't know what all the flack's about.
Well, I'm glad. Like I said, this is a movie that needs love. This is a little Charlie Brown Christmas tree of a movie.
And they couldn't figure out it was tonal issues. Again, Batman v Superman got criticized for being, or Man of Steel as well, kind of a little bit on the darker side, just having no sense of comic relief. And then they,
it's hard to imagine two people whose approach to comic book directing would be more tonally divergent than Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. So trying to make a film that includes both of their personalities was just misbegotten.
Yeah.
from the very start.
I don't
I can't
know.
speak to. I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't mention. But there's a scene at the end where it kind of ends with a comic like, well, that was a close one, kind of a thing, and that just missed the mark for me. It was like, really? Like, that's not what either of you would do in that situation. Like, yeah, they overcorrect. They try to overcorrect and went down.
They went to they wanted to make a Marvel movie, and I think with Wonder Woman, we saw what a DC Marvel movie done really well could be, and this is a DC Marvel movie done really shittily. I didn't like it.
I don't know. It has good qualities. The only thing that I thought was a little bit, I didn't think Steppenwolf's face was very good. His graphics weren't very good.
His
The
whole thing,
CGI is
his CGI
pretty
is
rough.
And there were a couple of spots where I was like, am I watching Ghostbusters from 1980s? Like the actual cinematography was really weird.
It was so badly tinkered with in post-production, I think, to make it more colorful.
Is that what it was?
I think
It
that's
looked
what
kind
it
of
was.
fake.
It looks super fake because it was just digitized all to hell.
Yeah. So that's my only
All right.
my only zing on it. So if you like Tim's thoughts, probably
Rob's
avoid
thoughts.
and Rob's thoughts, probably
If
avoid.
you are like the 69% of critics who thought that this was a bad movie, be aware.
Be aware. What
right,
about
Tim.
you?
So I'm gonna go all the way to the opposite end from a big old studio tentpole. One of the films I saw was an amazing French animated feature called The Girl Without Hands. It is a fairy tale directed and written by Sebastian Lodenbach, based on a Grimm Brothers fairy tale, and it's basically about this miller who inadvertently makes a deal with the devil to sell his daughter for a river of gold. And the girl, when the devil comes to collect, is so pure of heart that the devil can't even touch her. So he decides to punish her by having her hands cut off. So she now becomes the girl without hands. And it's just a story about how she runs from her terrible father and ends up falling in love with a prince who gives her a beautiful pair of golden hands, and we think everything's happy, but the devil is still real pissed off that he didn't get his due, so he keeps tormenting her. Real short movie, only about 75 minutes long, which I think is kind of exactly the right length for this super fairy tale-esque. Like, nothing takes place in a concrete reality. None of the characters have names. It's all very, like, essential and one note and like sort of iconic in ways that are all good. I mean, one note sounds like a terrible thing, but it works because this is a fairy tale. And it's done in this amazing style. Do either of you know, like, Chinese ink wash painting, those like rice paper paintings where like the paint sort of like
sure. Yeah.
It's done in that style.
Oh, cool.
Like, it's done on computer, so you don't have that wonderful like tactility that you get from actual ink wash painting, but that's what it's designed to look like.
So is the movement meant to look like that too? So it looks like it's kind of
the movement
like
is,
when you flip a page, a book.
It's not quite like that. The movement's all very fluid, but also like their bodies sort of like disintegrate in between movements. So like everyone's just done as an outline. Like there's no like fully colored in characters. So like when they move, it's just sort of like the lines that describe their hand sort of separate off and just like move into wherever their body is, or for example. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to come by. I got it because I am lucky enough to have screener access right now during the time of year. This is a G-Kids release, so G-Kids is really good about putting out really nice home video releases, usually about 7 or 8 months. So sometime in like April, keep an eye out for this movie.
Remind later, because
I
people
will.
might forget.
Well, I don't
Your
see why they
compelling
possibly would. But you know, this is the most beautiful animated film I've seen this year after Loving Vincent.
Will it be out for? How would that
it's
work?
eligible.
Would it be,
It's
okay,
eligible
it would
for
be.
Oscars.
That's interesting though, because like you said, most people aren't actually going to see it for months and months, but it would be actually eligible this year. So this is going to be one of those weird ones.
It
that you're
came
like,
out
what
technically
is
in
this?
August.
Okay.
But it only really played New York and LA.
So what you meant to say was most beautifully animated film until you saw Coco, which is
No, I didn't.
no, you didn't. You didn't make that mistake.
Coco looks real nice.
He's trying to segue.
Coco looks nice. That's
He's
what I
trying
want
to
to talk
segue
about.
to-
Man without hands, girl without hands is prettier.
is prettier. Well, it'll be interesting to see if you like a movie that I saw, which was Coco, better than Woman Without Hands. Woman Without
Girl
Hands.
Without Hands.
Girl Without Hands.
I like Girl Without Hands.
It's already sticking with people, Tim.
You like it better?
I liked it better than
all right,
Coco.
well, then I got to see it.
Oh gosh.
We're talking about 2017's Coco, hour 49 minutes. IMDb right now sitting at 9.0. 9.0.
It's early
real
though.
high.
It is early though.
With Rotten Tomatoes. That's not that. I mean,
It just came out
I'm
still in
sure
theaters.
part of that, this is the highest grossing film in the history of the Mexican box office.
yeah.
So I'm
Everybody's
sure
right now.
a big part of it's been open there since Day of the Dead, so the first weekend in
I didn't even think about the release timing.
Yeah, no,
I didn't even think about the
it
release
opened for the
timing.
holiday in Mexico, made a titanic sum of money. Everybody adores it. So I'm sure some of that 9.0 is coming from Mexican audiences.
So this movie, Tim touched on it. It follows an aspiring musician named Miguel, kind of taking place, and it focuses on the Day of the Dead Mexican culture, which I didn't like. I knew of the Day of the Dead, but I didn't know about the Day of the Dead. Like, I don't know all of the tradition that goes behind it and the meaning behind it.
Oh, yeah.
And boy, did this movie get me. I teared up so many times during this movie, and the focus on family, something that's not. The differences between U.S. culture and Mexican culture, kind of as I sat with this movie a couple days now, is it's in U.S. culture. I feel like we distance ourselves from death, from pain, from tragedy, like those types of things.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about it.
We don't want to talk about it. We isolate it. And in Mexican culture, maybe I'm sure in other cultures as well, it's more of a celebrated thing.
Very few cultures are as weirdly death phobic as the U.S.
Yeah, and just embracing family, and just. Having the whole family live together, basically, and kind of just being one group, and the importance of family.
See, to me, that just sounds like liquid burning hell.
You mentioned Thanksgiving. We got that, yeah.
It's I can tolerate seeing my parents a few times a year. When I have to see any member of the extended family, it's like I would really just like to eat glass and die right now.
I hope none of them are listening either.
Miguel is...
I don't think any of my family listen to the podcast.
Okay.
Well, and I want to be careful on how I talk a little bit about what the movie is. I hope everybody can go out and see it. Tim mentioned that it's animated beautifully, maybe not as much as the Girl with...
Well, it's different. I mean, this is a Pixar film, and with Pixar, you're going to have just unbelievably sophisticated CGI rendering. Pixar has the best computers. Like, they just do. They make the best looking films with the most interesting lighting effects, and God knows this film had good lighting effects.
Really good lighting. And just when Miguel, who's voiced by Anthony Gonzalez, picks up the guitar and plays, like, I was just admiring the fingers.
Yeah.
Just the fingers pressed up against the frets.
Well, like, I think we can say this without it being a spoiler. So Miguel ends up in the land of the dead and has to get out. And there's a ticking clock scenario, which is that if he doesn't get out by the morning after the Day of the Dead, he'll be trapped there. And much as in Back to the Future, where we see Marty McFly's picture
I didn't even think about
fade
that.
out.
Good call. Didn't make that connection.
Miguel's body starts to turn into a skeleton, but like a skeleton bound by like the barely visible aura of his skin. And oh my God, that effect.
That was good.
That was so beautiful.
What did you think, Kara?
Yeah, I'm still struggling a little bit with it. I've had an emotional week, so that one it was a little tough.
Well, you're one of those people who doesn't like that. You don't like talking about death. Like,
yeah, I'm tearing up right now with you even saying it. No, yeah, I for pretty much as long as I can remember, I've had like anxiety about death and my like parents dying, and so I didn't want to take the girls to this because I didn't want to like them to be like, let's ask questions. And so like,
and did they ask questions?
Yeah, they're like afterwards they're like, hee, let's go die, and like in joke, like they don't get it at all. So they're like, it'll be so fun because we can go. And it's like,
I think your daughters have just formed a suicide.
I know, but I literally like we went after this and I was just like, you're faced with having to say all these things. You're looking at me because my eyes are tearing up thinking about this movie because it was so sad.
But
it was
happy
really
sad, right?
I thought
no, it was just
I found
sad,
this to be
sad.
a tremendously, like almost trivially happy movie.
It was heart-wrenching and awful and sad. And I was then I had Alice sitting on my lap during the movie, and I was trying to keep it together because I don't like my kids to see me cry.
Oh, I heard her tell you, Mama, why are you crying?
I know. It was so bad. I know. I was like, I'm not crying. I'm drooling on you.
So Alice is
totally
our 3-year-old,
better.
and our 6-year-old turned to me, and I could tell she was crying at the right time, like happy. And she said, Daddy, it's okay. It's just sometimes I when I'm happy, I cry. I was like, she's got it. Like that's the feeling.
Abby's all right.
No.
Way to go, Pixar. Like this is not an
jerks.
easy topic
Just
to turn
jerks.
into a movie meant for.
They know what they're doing
meant
though.
for adults.
They know exactly how to turn the story just at the right moment.
Oh,
They
yeah.
know you're going to sob.
Pixar's thing is making you cry.
They know, like
And
just the music.
Honestly, one of the things I didn't love about Coco is I could tell like halfway through the movie what specifically that moment was going to consist
Yeah.
of. It's like, they're going to do X, and that's going to be the big cry scene, and I know I'm
and
going to
you're
cry.
going to.
And I did.
Yeah.
But I kind of resented the movie for it a little bit.
Sure.
I know exactly what you mean. I was
But
like,
don't you?
yeah.
Did either of you leave appreciating and maybe trying to face some of those more taboo things in U.S. culture? Like I'm all in now. Like I want to be able to embrace
You
my
want to
family
become a
more.
Mexican Catholic?
Maybe. Yeah, that's on the short list.
Yeah, this is a movie, though, in short, that everybody it's worth seeing in theaters.
Oh, totally.
And
It's a Pixar, for God's
if you're
sake.
worried about taking your kids, though, as I was, I struggled more with it than our kids did. So I think kids are actually fine.
It's a little esoteric. It doesn't
Yeah.
have... I mean, I think that about a lot of Pixar films that kids adore. Like, I still don't remotely understand how children can possibly like Finding Nemo, and it's like their most popular film. So it does have some esoteric stuff in there, both about metaphysics and about family and about history. Would super help if you are or have Mexican friends, you know?
Yeah.
And we do.
We do.
And I'm looking forward to catching up and seeing what they thought about and whether their traditions were upheld with this movie. Because from everything I've heard, it's right on.
I mean, I'm sure in all of the people of Mexican descent or who live in Mexico, like someone disliked this movie. Everyone I've heard from Mexico talking about this movie seemed to love it.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things, if you look at, American/white critics, a lot of them are like, oh, this movie is culturally appropriative. And it's like the Mexicans don't think that. Or at least they are not. That does not seem to be the conventional wisdom coming out of Mexico. So,
well, like you said, Tim, it's brought in over 154 million worldwide, set number one at the box office, crushing, maybe not crushing, eking out Justice League.
It's slapping Justice League around a little bit,
which I'm excited about.
Both good.
Also was preceded by a little Olaf movie that we'll be saving for our Patreons. After the show. So feel free to tune in, check out more on that via our Patreon site. Remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. I mentioned one of them, Patreon. We just started offering a kind of all this exclusive content. We're going to be bringing the Olaf recap.
We're going to be talking about Olaf's Frozen Adventure. You can hear us getting ready for the show, which largely consists of me saying dirty things at Rob and Carrie laughing. It's pretty great.
And if you're looking for more perks than that, like making us watch a movie, having Tim write a review, picking your own episode topic, you can do it all from our Patreon page. Just like our newest Patreon, Kellison Dale, who picked up our Critics' Choice Award, entitling him to a Tim movie review. He hasn't written in yet what he wants, but only 3 of those rewards left. Ooh. Thank you, Kellison. Also want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on our Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here were the things that were purchased. Had a Samsung 128 gig, 100 megabytes per second micro SD card purchased. Right. Maybe for a camera and pictures, yeah. Taking some photos.
Oh, damn it. I just realized I bought like 5 DVDs over Black Friday and forgot to log into our site.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks.
I could have paid for the electric bill for us here in the studio. Also had a Pioneer 8-inch by 8-inch snap-load sewn leatherette frame cover memory book. Probably to frame...
Probably for the... Wait, so...
Offerenda? Is that what it's called? What? Are you talking about Coco?
No, I was talking about the memory card that someone just bought.
Oh, picture.
No, because you're printing. You're printing these. Well, so they're taking the pictures.
I thought it was like one of those little like picture frames that go through a reel of pictures.
Oh, that could be it too. Like a photo frame.
Snap load sewn.
Well, because you said Panasonic, so it implies to me it's
Pioneer.
an electronic.
Pioneer. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, good call. But you could have an electronic offerenda if is that what it's called? The thing, the altar.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I feel like would that be in low taste?
Oh, hold on a sec. Pioneer white refill pages for the 8x8.
Take it back. Okay. It was a printer.
Right. So someone else
sold me on that too.
Okay.
I believed you.
I believed me.
So the altar scenario is still in play.
It's still in play. Yep.
Okay. Pet Supplies. This is a repeat customer here because I know their grain-free adult recipe with pasture-fed lamb-dry dog food. So they must have been running low on that 25-pound bag. Also,
it's getting kind of weirdly like reverse stalkery in a way. I think you should let the dog owner just like quietly buy the food.
Yeah.
not call out, like not how quickly they're consuming the 25 pounds. Because
then what happens is 1 week
they make the dog
like
have
there's going to come a month where they're
issues.
not where so eventually the dog is going to die. And then they're not going to buy the food, and then you're going to be like, I wonder what happened to that dog owner, and you're going to make them feel that loss all over again.
Very, very true.
Oh, damn it. I apparently left
my now everybody knows what your what is this? Is this Zelda?
That's Zelda or Pac-Man? No, it's not Pac-Man.
Bring it up to the mic. Let's all hear it. What is it?
It's the Zelda Overworld theme, as would almost have to be.
Is my ringtone different?
It says a lot about you.
It's the same for
everybody's got the same. I always was hoping that people kind of differentiated ringtones. We did get some DVDs, not from you, Tim, but we did get Happy Hour on DVD, which I'm not familiar with.
I don't think
Happy
I know
Hour. Also, Harry Potter, the complete 8-film collection.
Oh,
nice.
Big spender. Appreciate that. Also on Amazon Instant Video, Heaven Can Wait.
Which Heaven Can Wait?
Does not say.
There are 2 Heavens Can Wait.
Is one better than the other?
They're different.
Okay. Is it sad?
No, neither one is sad. They're both comedies. They both involve people dying.
Sounds great.
Thank you guys for all your purchases. When we get back, our top 5, hold on, biopics.
Biopic.
And welcome back to Alternating. We're talking about our top 5 biopics. Care, very controversial. What is a biopic to you? Because there's like a million movies if you go by Wikipedia. So how do you...
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't go by Wikipedia. I just went by my heart, unfortunately. So I don't know why it's that difficult to define. It's just a biographical... It's a movie that talks about the life of somebody that was real.
Well, that's fair. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I went a little deeper because I couldn't have like a million movies to choose from. That was a bit much for me. Tim, what did you do?
I don't think you can possibly define it strictly enough to keep your... I mean, there are so goddamn many biopics.
I only came up with 7. There were only 7 biopics I found.
It's so easy.
Really?
Yeah, and then I narrowed to 5, and then here we are.
All right. So for me, I went pretty rigid on my definition because I think that a nonfiction story about a real person is not inherently the same thing as a biopic. So initially,
I'm nodding in agreement. Yeah.
Tell me more
Initially,
why.
my first thought was that a biopic had to be a cradle to grave story, or at least a cradle to well late in the life. Decided against that just on the grounds that there are a lot of things that are clearly biopics that don't quite fit that criterion. What I do think it needs to be is it needs to be the story of someone who really lived. It needs to cover a substantial portion of their life. It can't be... So the examples I was thinking of as like I wanted to call biopics because I wanted to maybe consider them for my list, but I couldn't do it. So a movie like Jackie, last year's really wonderful, wonderful film starring Natalie Portman as Jacqueline Kennedy, tells the story of basically 1 week in her life when she's trying to prepare John Kennedy's funeral. And that to me is not a biographical sketch. It does not tell us about Jackie Kennedy. It tells us about an event. And my mother, when I was over Thanksgiving debating this question with my family, very adroitly pointed out, well, yeah, if we were going to call Jackie a biopic, we'd also have to call Apollo 13 a biopic. And that no sane person would call that a biopic. Unless it's on your list, Carrie, in which case I apologize. So for me, it has to be about a substantial period of someone's life. It has to include the thing for which that person is best known or at least most notable, in case they're not actually a celebrity. It has to be primarily about their character. It cannot be a film in which someone exists as a character, they really existed in history, but we just see them doing stuff. Like, it has to be a psychological sketch. And that's probably the point where I have the strictest definition.
I love it, Tim. I still think we won't.
And I also considered the possibility that the title has to be a deliberate, specific reference to the main character. I decided against that.
A bit intense, Tim.
That would have been much. Yeah.
I think though it's in the spirit of the thing.
It is absolutely in the spirit. And I too had cradle to grave until it wasn't convenient for the picks that I had narrowed it down to. Then I kind of was like, it just needs to span there's an undefined. I don't know what it is. Like, it's just more on a feeling.
There's one of my films that the title rule would have outlawed. By the way, I want to call it a biopic, although I don't think it would actually outlaw it. And then I have one other criterion. I think that a biopic has to be first and foremost a biopic. So if it's an art film, but otherwise meets the rules, it doesn't count. Specifically, I'm thinking of the film The Chronicle of Anna Magdalena Bach is not a biopic.
Let me give you
another one on my list.
Let me give you another example to dissect here is it had to focus on one person versus like a group.
I can
like Hoosiers. That's a based on a true story.
To me, Hoosiers is a one event movie. Hoosiers is not about
okay. So if it wasn't a one event, like I don't want to focus on a group of people. I want to focus on. I
think I agree with that. Like, to me, there was nothing that would have violated that.
And I'm with you on it needed to span. I still haven't figured out like what an undetermined amount of time, because I didn't want to do cradle to grave, but I did want it to span multiple, not just what they're best known for.
It had to be more than one single narrative conflict for me. It had to be like a period of their life.
And the other one the big one was, and this is more on feel too, is it based on a true story or is it a biopic? Because if it's over stylized to me, I kind of want to throw it out. Like, and that's a hard thing to judge. But do you know what I'm? That's a hard.
I think I do.
Know what I'm talking about?
I thought about that. I did not make it a criterion for me. Fidelity to realism and like level of like stylistic artistry are not disqualifying.
Because I kind of want it almost to be like a document. Like how I want it to be boring. Like a little bit boring.
Oh, they're boring.
Right. That's what I want it to be.
It's a terrible genre. Can I just, at this point, everyone knows this who reads my reviews. I fucking hate biopics. They're my least favorite genre. They compete with coming of age stories as my least favorite genre. there are biopics I like, and there are not really coming of age stories I like. So in that respect, biopics are not my least favorite genre. But there are far more biopics that I hate than that I even tolerate. So.
And because of that, I'm realizing that last criteria that I had, I'm excluding my number 1, and I'm going to make an audible for my number 5. So I'll mention that when I get there.
You'll have to tell us what your number 1 would have been.
Yes, because it's too stylized. It's just too stylized.
There is one film that I think meets every one of my criterion. I'll be real curious to see if it shows up on either of your lists. I don't want to name it right at this point. I disqualified it on the grounds of it just feeling wrong.
Braveheart.
Great example.
Although
we'll see.
Braveheart is a real big question mark, I think, because there's virtually nothing about it that really happened.
There's a guy in there that had a name that existed in real life.
Well, let's get to it. Number 5 for you, Care.
Yeah, so number 5,
obviously.
no, it's a little bit better than that. It's actually the 1995's Apollo 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling a little like
you stick with your...
I'm going to go with my gut on this one,
with it.
especially because this movie is awesome. And it's the biography of a totally true story of the Apollo 13 and many real people who headed to the moon to get there, and the trials and tribulations of Jim Lovell, real person.
Yep.
Fred Hayes.
In the French restaurant he opened in Lake Forest, Illinois.
You've been there?
I've been there.
Was it good?
It was good. It was a little pricey.
Did you have the foie gras?
I don't remember what I had. It was many years ago. It closed some time ago.
Okay. And Jack Swigert, also real person. And yeah, this movie was really good.
There are more. Keep naming the real people. There's lots of real people in this movie.
Yeah, there's other ones that are also in there. Tom Hanks is in it, who's also real.
Tom Hanks is a real person.
And so is Bill Paxton.
Which ironically is why Cloud Atlas is my number 5 biopic, but we'll get there in a moment.
So why am I not a sane person by having this?
Because it's a docudrama. It's about the Apollo 13
It's the biography of these mission people.
It's not the biography
of
Jim Lovell.
It's the biography of a point. See, the thing.
It's based on the biography of Jim Lovell.
It's based on an event. It documents
But that's
an
the
event.
thing. This is your criteria.
Yeah, right.
The thing.
That's fair.
An event that's more monumental than most things that people were experiencing their entire lives. So
and you're not alone in this. I mean, there are audience members who wrote in across the board. I just felt I needed to constrain.
To me, this was one to, I think in part because the word biopic itself makes me so angry. I wanted to very strongly cordon off.
Yeah, I heard the insanity thing. So I love this movie, and the thing
Apollo
is,
13's great.
I specifically avoided anything to do with a cradle and a grave because both of those things are like my saddest points in my life. So I like to just focus right in the middle. Like that's where my sweet spot is like events and peaks in people's lives and happiness, which is Apollo 13.
Ron Howard?
Ron Howard, yeah. Jim Lovell.
Okay.
Did Jim Lovell write this?
He wrote the book on which it was based. It was based on his own biography.
Okay. So yeah, that's number 5.
All right, good.
And your rules are not the right
not
rules,
your
so it's okay that your list is the wrong list.
I did when you said that. I was like, I'm concerned.
You stay true to you, Care.
I am. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna do me. So, what does that make it to your number 5? Some French thing?
So my number 5. Well, I have nothing French. I have no foreign films. I have no artistic films. I have some. I tried to get good films. I think every one of these is an outright masterpiece, but no art films. So my number 5 is the 1994 story of several years in the life of noted B-movie director Ed Wood.
The name is Ed Wood?
The title of the film is Ed Wood.
I've never heard of this.
You're kidding me.
No.
It's so good. It's directed by Tim Burton, written by, let me get their names real quick, Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski.
Karaszewski.
Him. It's... They're sort of biopic experts. They later went on to write Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman film starring Jim Carrey, of which there's currently a Netflix documentary out. But anyway, so this is the story of how Ed Wood, the famously awful director of such films as Plan 9 from Outer Space, Glen or Glenda, Bride of the Monster, how he rose to a very, very low level of prominence in the 1950s, following his passionate dream to make movies at any cost and also to wear women's sweaters underneath his man clothes while he was directing movies. So it's got that. It's got the psychological element. Like Ed Wood was, a guy who wore women's clothes and felt very good about that. It's got the greatest hits element because he makes all 3 of those very well-known movies over a span of 6 years that the movie looks at. It's several things all at once. First off, it's a wonderful tribute to B movies. Like you can tell that Tim Burton and the people he had making this film with him, all the crew, Ed Wood is played by Johnny Depp, Bela Lugosi, the famous B-movie actor, is played by Martin Landau, who won an Oscar for the film. These people all very clearly love the material. It's not looking down on Ed Wood. It celebrates Ed Wood. So that's cool. Like, I like anything that's that pro B-movie. It's just a really good story about like the film industry in the 1950s. I learned a lot about how Poverty Row filmmaking worked from this film. And it's just really fun. And, you know, a biopic that's like, I'm sort of the opposite
Cradle
of
to
Rob.
Grave?
It's not Cradle to Grave.
Okay.
It only covers about 7 years. It's like 52 to
Okay.
59. He does not include any of his miserable descent into directing porno and dying of, I believe, alcoholism. So whereas Rob says a biopic needs to be boring, for me, if they're not, that's a huge plus. And Ed Wood is like such a fun movie.
It's good.
It's not a comedy. Like, it's got some sad bits and Bela Lugosi's life story, which is very dark and tragic. But the movie itself is so upbeat.
Yeah.
Because it presents a very upbeat character. Like,
Yeah.
its version of
Yeah.
Ed Wood is a hopeless optimist.
Good,
And I love
good
this
cat,
movie.
like Depp probably in his best.
Possibly
seen it
Depp's
too?
all-time best
No, I
performance.
haven't, and I've stayed away from it. I don't know, like a little bit of the black and white kind of steered me off, but then it looked a little like campy. But it's campy
It is-
because
it's campy on purpose.
because it's Ed Wood.
It's campy
so
on purpose, for
I should
sure.
probably give it a chance
Oh,
at some
yeah.
point.
I think you'd really get a kick out of it, Rob. I'm not 100% sure you... Because you hate Johnny Depp, right?
He's okay. I loved him in Murder on the Orient Express that I just saw. So
Oh,
he was good
interesting.
there. But
Well,
yeah.
I had to bump my number one and create a new number 5, and this one was on the fringe, and then it just fits more with my list. And if I'm being true to my list, I'll tell you what my number 1 was later. But that one was just too stylized. This one is more of a true biopic in the sense of the word from my criteria. I'm going with 1989's My Left Foot,
Oh.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Anybody?
No.
Not on my list, although when I finally saw this movie not that long ago, like maybe 3 years ago, I was stunned by how good it is. Like, everything about it says this is a movie that Tim would hate, and I kind of liked it a lot.
Okay, yeah, because you don't. Why were you expecting that?
Oscar-winning
Oscar bait?
biopic from the 1980s.
Yeah, I mean it's Oscar bait, and I mean that's
About a disabled person,
it's a
which are usually
disabled
the
person.
worst kind of biopics.
That's right, and a lot of spoofs and parodies have been made about like winning an Oscar, like with using this type of acting performance.
And he did.
And he did win an Oscar, as did his supporting.
Yeah, Brenda Flicker, I think her name was.
Yes. So this is based on a it's true
Based
story.
on a true story.
Damn it. No, it is a true story. It's absolutely 100%
It's like little
shot for
bits
shot.
of it. Okay.
Follows. I think. Well, I don't know. Grave. I don't know where he. I can't recall that.
I don't think he was at the time. He might not even now be dead.
Yeah. So he was someone born with cerebral palsy, and really he learns to use his only functioning limb, which is his left foot, to paint, to do amazing
Oh,
things. I
wow.
think he wrote, like he did all of these amazing artistic things. And it follows him as a young child, and then mostly the movie centers around him his adulthood, with Daniel Day-Lewis playing him.
And we haven't named the subject of this one. We should probably do that.
Oh, damn it! I don't have that ready.
What do you mean
Christy
this-
Brown.
Christy Brown. Yes.
What do you mean the subject of the film?
The who
He
it's
just
about.
keeps saying he and him as though this was a movie about
Yeah.
our Lord
Oh,
and Savior.
oh,
True
sure,
story. So he's an
Capital H.
Irish.
Oh, that's another one of my rules. Movies about Jesus don't count.
Okay,
Good to know.
that was discussed
Because you
on
didn't
the,
have enough
on the site.
criteria, so don't worry.
But I mean, come on. I mean, I know now it's a little bit of a faux pas to do these types of movies, or you get crap for being kind of like, oh, you're doing Oscar bait type of movie. But
But they still make them.
they still make them, and this is one that's true.
Breathe came out.
Yeah, Breathe did come out, but this one is like has the sincerity and the heart and the performance of a Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's the thing. It's
yeah.
legit one of Daniel Day-Lewis's best performance, and he's like one of the best actors.
The man with one left foot.
You're confusing the Tom Hanks movie a little bit with My Left Foot, but yes.
What is it again?
You're confusing the man with the one shoe with
Oh, that was a good one.
with My Left Foot.
But what was
Sadly,
the title
not
of this again?
My Left
My
Foot.
Left
My
Foot.
Left Foot.
My Left Foot. I actually really think I find these types of movies, as even as you're describing it, I'm like, oh, that sounds like I will cry through the entire movie.
Yes.
But I love movies like
And
that
I
where
put it-
people rise above.
I saw The Divine and The Butterfly.
Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Diving Bell, like it's. That's why, like, I can't see myself seeing myself.
Insofar as
watching
they
it again.
both are about like people with enormously crippling disabilities, like finding a way to communicate. Although there's so much more like stylization. in Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
stylistically different. But if you have trouble with that type of content,
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm. It's not like something you're going to go out and want to rewatch.
Sure, but it's worth seeing to
it's
see
worth seeing
somebody
just-
rise above and like
it's
succeed
like a Gleason,
amidst
Gleason kind of a thing. It's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
What's 4 do you care?
4 to me, speaking of rising above and being amazing, is the biography of Rudy Rudiger.
Damn it.
Is he on your list?
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
Number 2 on my list. I can't help it. I love Rudy.
You can't pass Rudy
Wait, I'm
up.
sorry. Technically, he's number 1 on my list. You just took my number 1.
Oh, so let me tell you about
Rudy.
it. It's Rudy. 1993's Rudy. It's directed by David Anspaugh and written by Angelo Pizzo. So it's the biography of Rudy Rudiger, who's a little bit on the small side.
He's a tiny little guy.
He's a little tiny, but he really wants to play football. And so he goes out and he's like, hey, I'm going to play football anyway, even though I'm teeny, and I'm going to beat the odds, and I'm going to play for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame's really good. And he goes out, and I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's really good.
You're 5 foot nothing.
100 nothing.
You're 100 nothing. What makes you think? It's good stuff.
Oh, it's
Charles
just
S.
so
Dutton
good. It just
in
makes you
this.
want to go out and play football for Notre Dame.
John Favreau.
John Favreau, yeah. It's Sean Astin, who also plays Sam. Sam Beckett? No.
As
Yeah,
Rudy.
he plays Sam Beckett.
No, Sam. What's his last name?
Traveling from life to life.
Sam, what's his last name?
Sam
Gamgee, yeah.
Gamgee.
And Ned Beatty's in it too. It's just a movie that if you haven't, everyone's seen it.
I mean, it's
the
super
perfect
I think
story.
everybody has seen
I
this.
find this movie to be like charming and not super exciting, but it has one of my all-time favorite taglines, so I just want to share that with
What
all
is
of
it?
you. When people say dreams don't come true, tell them about Rudy.
Oh.
It's a good tagline.
Yeah, it was a good tagline. It's
a good tagline.
Yeah.
Also-
but not on your list either.
Also, the film can't be stylized and needs to be as true to life as possible.
I know.
This movie is such a fucking pack of lies.
I know.
What do you mean a pack of lies?
Everything about
pack of perfection.
It's a pack of perfection in the form of lies.
I couldn't bump 2 movies, and the
was he
my
not
number
as
1
small
was
as they said?
The basically entire story of how he functioned at Notre Dame is more or less made up.
Kind of a dream squasher, you know?
I try to be.
I didn't know that. Yeah, this one is
This-
of my list. It's there's maybe another. I don't know. It was hard to stick to the stylized part of my criteria.
I did not make that a criteria.
Yeah, I know.
just didn't.
So what is that to make it to your number 4 then?
That makes it, my number 4. So my number 4, I think might also have a decent chance of being on Rob's list if he's seen the film. Unlike all the other films on my list, I don't think this person was terribly well known before the movie and probably wouldn't be well known without the movie. This is the 1980 biopic of boxer Jake LaMotta, directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, and the film, of course, is Raging Bull.
Not on my list.
I made Rob see this for a recommended when we used to do that segment. Yeah.
Sure.
Saw it too late. Saw it too late in life.
Tell us about it.
How can you see the best movie of the 1980s too late in life? I'm a little confused.
I just didn't hold. It didn't hold up for me for some reason.
I mean,
I don't know.
this to me is this is Scorsese's masterpiece as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned. It's the story of Jake LaMotta, who is this boxer who started out really strong in his youth, but was this very self-destructive asshole who was abusive to all the people around him.
Mostly his wife.
Sort of flares out and becomes this pathetic, fat doofus as he hits his 40s. The film sort of moves between the two periods of his life, showing us his virile youth contrasting with this puffy middle age. De Niro is amazing in both. One of the most deserved acting Oscars of all time. Gorgeous black and white movie. It just occurred to me now that I've so far gone 2 for 2 with black and white movies, which is probably why Rob is not on board with my list. Gorgeous black and white photography. As a story about Jake LaMotta, I mean, I don't know if it's true. I don't know anything about Jake LaMotta, the boxer, except from what I saw from this movie. But as a snapshot of destructive malehood, eating itself alive, it's such a powerful document about American masculinity. And as a film, it is the pinnacle of editing over the last 40 years. The boxing scenes, all of which have been shot and cut in a different style, are some of the finest. They're terrible boxing. And I know people who dislike this movie solely because of how shitty the boxing is, but they are so perfect as art.
I've heard it's nothing like Jake LaMotta's life in real life, bits and pieces.
That could easily be. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't care. That wasn't one of my rules. That was one of Rob's rules.
Oh, dang it. It's coming back at you for Rudy.
Also, it's so good. It's so
I
tragic
think
and wonderful.
having seen it, I can see why people appreciate it. It's just not something that I hold. It doesn't fill my bucket for appreciation, but I can understand what
see.
people are going for. So now I'm up to number 4 here. This one will be true to my criteria here. It's a movie that I saw at a very young age and probably watched on repeat. And we were talking about Mexican culture. This is 1987's La Bamba.
Ah,
La Bamba.
I have not seen La Bamba.
I've eaten their burritos.
96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Never heard of it.
It is not a
It's
spoof.
the story of that guy who died in a plane crash.
Yeah, along with Buddy Holly and others, but Richie Valens.
Richie Valens.
Known for the ba-la-la-la Bamba.
Oh, I know the song, yeah.
Ba-la-la-la. And also maybe Donna. Oh, Donna.
Oh, I know that one too, yeah.
You know those? Yeah.
Yeah.
Classics. Follows Richie Valens from cradle to his unfortunate
very, very
early
early
demise at the peak of him.
Easier to do when they die at 22 or however old he was.
Yeah, but just focuses on the family life too, just being kind of first generation. I don't know if he's first generation. He might have immigrated into the U.S. as a young child, but dealing kind of with being on the poor side, growing up loving music and the musical culture of Mexican culture, and then just striking fame, and then balancing like his roots and his heritage with becoming popular. And they didn't want studios didn't want La Bamba to be a hit that it ended up being. I mean, I sang it as a kid in the car over and over and over and over again. But yeah, I really appreciate this movie, learning a little bit about Richie Valens, and I find too, like, I like music biopics. Sorry, Tim. Biopics quite a bit.
Every time you say it, my grip tightens around this wine glass a little bit more. Eventually, I'll shatter it.
But Brent,
Like to see that.
audience member Brendan Klein also had this on his list, so I'm not alone in the love of La Bamba. But yeah, you guys should check it out sometime.
Okay.
Number 3.
I should.
I have a movie that's next that I think might be on both of your lists, possibly.
Okay.
It's a good one, and it meets all your criteria where the name is in the title of the person is in the title, and it spans a period of their life, and it's all biographical. Can you think of what movie I'm talking about?
That's still very broad.
It's still very broad. What if I said lactose?
Oh, Harvey Milk.
Harvey Milk, is it on your list?
I thought
I don't
about
like
it.
this movie very much.
I thought about Harvey Milk.
Come
I-
on.
it qualifies.
Oh, it totally qualifies. The 2008 movie Milk. How does he not like this movie?
I find
It's a
it to be
biography
like
picture.
Milk toast.
I find it to be yes.
Yeah.
I should have used that. God damn it!
That was a
Can we
good
go
pun.
back and erase and like then I can make that my joke?
Yeah,
'Cause
we
it's
would've
more
known.
on brand for me than for you. Tell us about Milk.
Let me tell you about it. So it's directed by Gus Van Sant, who did Good Will Hunting. One of the best movies of all
Here's
time.
why I don't like Milk. I like Gus Van Sant when he's in his like hardcore art filmmaker mode, like Jerry and Last Days. I don't like him nearly as much when he's in his like populist mode.
But
like Milk
at
and Good
the
Will
same
Hunting.
time, he's just portraying somebody's life. So he's just doing his thing. He's just doing what he can to represent Harvey Milk, who's just a nice guy.
Harvey Milk's a nice guy.
Yeah. And, Harvey Milk had a situation that happened at the end that I won't talk about, but you can Wikipedia him too. It
I
didn't.
mean, I think we all know what happened to Harvey Milk.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't end well. So it's also written by Dustin Lance Black. I don't know if you know who he is, but it's the story of Harvey Milk. So he's this American gay activist who lives in California, and he fights tirelessly throughout the entire movie for equal rights, like in the community in California. And he stands up against all of these people in the time. I think it takes place in the 70s. So he stands up and says no to like all of the inequality, and he's out there and he's picketing and he's marching and doing all of these things to fight for equality. It stars Sean Penn as Harvey Milk, Josh Brolin as a real douchebag, and it just follows his life. And Harvey Milk is just this fabulous human being in person, and I just really enjoyed seeing everything that he did for society at that time. It was so good. What don't you feel good about?
I find it to be very aesthetically run-of-the-mill in ways that I was not prepared for.
But are you expecting a biography to be aesthetically?
This is why I don't like the genre.
Oh, right.
That is precisely why I don't like the genre.
Yeah.
I will say there is a documentary that I think you would adore.
Which one?
1984's The Times of Harvey Milk, made by Rob Epstein.
Oh, really?
Phenomenal movie.
Okay.
One of the great
Typing it
documentaries of
down.
the 80s. You should totally check it out.
The Times of Harvey
The
Milk?
Times of Harvey Milk.
So if you, I think that this was well received. Maybe not by you,
It was
but
a Best Picture nominee.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
was an Oscar winner.
I liked it. I thought it was all right.
But that didn't make your list.
I mean,
Didn't
I
make my list. I
think
considered
I
it.
gave it, I'm probably at like a 3.5 or 4 star on it. I like it fine.
yeah.
I don't
and
think
Sean
it's-
Penn, I don't normally love totally, but I thought he was really good too.
I think for me, it didn't span enough time other than his key moments. Like, I don't know anything about young Harvey.
For me, it's that there's a shot in the trailer where you see a gay pride flag the size of like a building unfurling, and it's such an amazing shot, and it wasn't used in the movie, and it pissed me off that it wasn't in the movie.
So that's why it was 4 stars, and then it became
that made it a 3.5 star movie.
Okay, I can see why I would have been really turned off by that too. So
I think you're patronizing me.
I am a little
right.
bit, yeah. So, but that made my number 3. Yeah,
To you,
I feel
Tim.
good about it.
All right. So I teased that one of my films would fail the title list, but it would also pass the title list based on what kind of biopic is this. So the film, based on the Peter Shaffer play, is the 1984 Amadeus, directed by Milos Forman, script by Peter Shaffer. So this is the story about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the very famous, very beloved music composer in the late 18th century in Austria. And it is also the story of Antonio Salieri, who is a very solid, but in no way, shape, or form legendary composer who had more popularity during the man's lifetime, but who envied massively Mozart's greater skill. And so for me, this is actually a story about Salieri, which is why I was like, well, it's named for Mozart, and it tells us a lot about Mozart, and it like very much is a tribute to Mozart's greatness as an artist, but it's really about Salieri's faith and his like collapse in his belief in a loving God, based primarily on the fact that he, a very faithful Catholic, had no talent, and Mozart, who is just this foul, dirty man, had the greatest talent that the world had ever seen. This is certainly not one that passes the true story test. It repeats the very well established as a lie that Salieri murdered Mozart. He did not. That's just that. But such an amazing character story about these two very different men and how one man deals with jealousy, the collapse of faith, creation of art, all of these things that I think are amazing. And I love it because in addition to being a biography of musicians whose work I think is really excellent, it's a costume drama that feels very lively. Like, this does not feel like one of those fussy movies where everybody talks like they, learned like Shakespeare by reading it in high school. Like, they talk like people, they fuck like people, they get drunk and they party, and it's just such a very living document. And I think it's great. This is actually probably my favorite American film of the 1980s.
Who plays Mozart?
Yeah, Mozart is played by Tom Hulce. Salieri is played by F. Murray Abraham.
Okay.
Both men nominated for Oscars. Abraham won.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
They were nominated against each other because it's very much a like two lead film.
Usually that like splits the vote, and it goes to someone else because that's interesting.
Is that pretty uncommon to have?
They try to go out of their way to make sure it doesn't happen.
Okay,
actually.
I was gonna say I'm not.
But yeah, no, it's
I have this one has just I've not
You haven't
had a
seen it?
chance to catch up with this
if
one.
you don't have an interest in classical music, it doesn't have a natural hook to go see it. I do. I think Mozart is legitimately one of the best artists who's ever lived. So that is for me the hook, but it's a really great story about envy.
Here's another musical artist.
Right.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on him. I told you music biopics for me. This is one that I caught on streaming because I had kind of put it off. I didn't know much about Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. And I'm not a big Beach Boys fan.
You're an asshole.
I know, right? Beatles
What
too.
is
like
wrong
I know
with
it's
you?
Beatles and
You
Beach Boys. I don't get
Did you
it.
say the Beatles?
Yeah, I did say it. I just don't get it.
If I'm glad I didn't find that out sooner, because that would have been a deal breaker.
That would have been a deal breaker.
Yeah,
I'm
it
kind of
really
wondering
would
if this
have
is the
been.
last episode of the podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can come back into this room.
Yeah,
But I'm
sheets
so
are clean in the guest room.
I'm so glad that I came across 2014's Love and Mercy, starring Paul Dano and John Cusack, Elizabeth Banks, and Paul Giamatti.
You saw this on this episode because I remember you talking about this on a previous episode. And you
and
loved
I haven't
it.
forgotten about it. Like it deals, and Brian Wilson's an interest. I think it helps that the person that the biopic is focused on is an interesting character. Has done some interesting things. So I knew him I maybe didn't know Brian Wilson, but okay, he's a Beach Boy. All right, well, I'll check this out. But I had no idea his life struggles and kind of the interesting things that happened in his life. Basically being kind of the he basically had gave power of attorney of his life over to this really shady psychiatrist who ran his life and everything for years, and just the struggles that he had, kind of a deep psychosis that he had as a young person. And it's one of those, he's a tragic figure in that in order to create all of this magnificent art,
we would not have Good Vibrations if Brian Wilson was a well man.
if he was well. And I feel like that's very true for many artists. Like
or
you
California
have to have,
Girls,
Yeah, maybe.
or any number of excellent world-defining songs.
Yes.
God only knows.
Oh, well done. Good job.
What?
What?
That's another song.
I can name dozens of Beach Boys singles. This is not a you guys, have you heard of this song called God Only Knows? You should totally listen to it.
Well, and I learned so much about almost the rivalry, if it was between the Beatles, or Brian Wilson, I'll say, and the Beatles, and kind of a one-upsmanship.
There was a thing between
on.
Brian and Paul. Like, they weren't like enemies, but they both wanted to like be better.
Yeah.
So there was Rubber Soul to Pet Sounds to Sgt. Pepper evolution that happened.
Yeah, and it was fun to see that dynamic playing out, learning a little bit about Brian Wilson and his struggles and how, and got to give it to John Cusack. As hard as it is for me to disconnect John Cusack from being John Cusack, like I thought he gave one of his best
great John
performances.
Cusack performance. I adore. So Paul Dano and John Cusack both play Brian Wilson at different periods of his life. They never met. The director made sure they didn't meet to compare notes. And I think they give such fascinatingly overlapping but distinct performances. I actually think this is a really good movie.
Yeah.
I didn't go past a top 6 for this, but I think this easily could have been in my top 10.
Oh, very good. I'm glad you
really
like it.
Structurally very cool. Amazing sound.
Yeah.
Like it's all like basically Beach Boys songs that have been broken down to their constituent elements and turned into like the constant droning nightmare that is the inside of Brian Wilson's head as Beach Boys fragments.
And he still plays today, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen him live.
I have too. He
It's
was
one
at
of the best
Ravinia. Did you
experiences.
see him at Ravinia?
I saw him at the Chicago Theater.
Oh, Ravinia was a little better because I was on like the grass.
I don't like Ravinia
in a
because you have to be
picnic.
outside.
I know. And there's all the bugs. It's nice. And like you get
There's
to
all
like
the bugs.
be
It's
with
nice.
nature.
Is not a phrase.
Well, what's
No.
interesting about this, it must be like a love project for the director because, to his credit, really just one 1990s movie, Old Explorers, which I think I've seen. Other than that, he hasn't done anything. Bill Pohlad.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just Love and Mercy and Old Explorers from 1990. He's done a lot of producing, but he just must be a big Brian Wilson or Beach Boys fan, but just really well executed. And if you haven't seen it, it might be streaming somewhere. I'm sure it is. Go through our site, check it out. It's definitely worth seeing. Even if you're not a Beach Boys fan, like I'm not a Beach Boys fan. I didn't know
Tell us
a
more
lot
about the Beatles. Yeah.
Beatles.
I will say also, I think my lead paragraph for my review of this was like, this is a movie that gave me faith in biopics again. So like it's totally.
Hey, well,
totally
very
worth
good. All right, I feel good. I'm back on a roll.
Let's see if we can keep on that roll with my number 2. So I know you mentioned how you don't like to celebrate disabled people, and
I think they should be put in camps.
Exactly. And I know how you were like, oh, I don't want
Tim
them to
doesn't
be.
mind them. They should all just be all in one place.
He wants them to be closed up. He doesn't want them to be
Yeah.
successful. He doesn't want anyone to like rise above.
I think
disability.
disability biopics tend to be a little bit more awful than most biopics because they're also like
because you wouldn't want to
sentimental.
talk about that.
Well,
Be
yes.
celebratory.
Anyway,
and
so
stuff.
tell us.
So let me tell you a little bit about the theory of everything.
I fucking hate the theory of everything.
I don't understand why. So this is directed by James Marsh and written by Anthony McCartan. This stars Eddie Redmayne, who was just out of this world as acting as Stephen Hawking. So he plays the famous physicist Stephen Hawking, and it's Felicity Jones plays his wife, and it's just the story of you're eating chocolate right now. Are you stress eating?
You're gonna do it,
I am
Tim?
stress eating a chocolate right now. Yes.
I watched this movie. From like 10 minutes in, I started to cry, and then I cried for the remaining 2 hours of this entire movie to see how amazing Stephen Hawking's life really is, and to have it play out and the struggles that he went through. So when you guys talked about having to have a long duration, it starts when he's in, I think, his collegiate years.
Yeah.
And then you see him as this just brilliant young man, and he's wonderful and fabulous, and he's so smart.
His career's just right about to take off.
It's about to take off, and then he gets diagnosed with ALS, and it shows the deterioration of him and his life, and the relationship between his wife, through getting married, through children, through everything. And this movie was so tragically wonderful and good, and I never have understood how you didn't like it.
I don't like it.
I just don't get it, though.
I wrote a review on our site.
I don't want to read it.
You
I'm
can
not going to read it. 'Cause I don't wanna
you
know.
need to, not that you want to just have a Kleenex next to you for for the rest of your life, but seeing My Left Foot and seeing Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm not saying he's the first person to do a
like if the
disabled
theory of
person.
everything didn't suck balls, it would be My Left Foot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you were having a bad day, maybe. Like, did you get a B on a paper, like a B plus?
I don't. This was 3 years ago. I don't recall what was going on.
I'm gonna check out the review.
So yeah, I don't want to read the review, but I loved it.
I don't dislike it.
I know.
I think I like it.
I gave it a 2.5.
It seems like you hated it, but
Justice League rating.
I don't think I could ever.
I would rather rewatch Justice League than rewatch Theory of Everything.
Justice League was good. So I can't imagine anyone else playing Stephen Hawking better than Eddie Redmayne in this movie too. His performance was awful. Like to get hit, like they show all these scenes of him getting up and down the stairs and stuff. The whole thing is just tragic, but yet he's still here. He's still alive, and he's still amazingly smart and wonderful, and does all these amazing things. And so it was good, and that's why it's my number 2.
I like it. I like
No,
it. It's
you
your number
don't,
2.
but I like
feel real bad.
I have another
feel
chocolate.
real bad right now.
Have another chocolate, and then go to your
So
number 2.
my number 2. This is the most flagrant violation of a biopic has to be in any way, shape, or form true. That I could feel. I mean, like there are more. Like Braveheart is a less true story than this, but so this is a film that is so much not about George M. Cohan that at the film's premiere, George M. Cohan allegedly said, "That was a great movie. Who is it about?" I'm referring to 1942's Yankee Doodle Dandy, directed by Michael Curtiz, starring James Cagney as Cohan, the songwriter of such songs as Yankee Doodle Dandy, She's a Grand Old Flag, Over There, all kinds of hymns to like America as this like strong, young, vibrant, militaristic powerhouse going out and doing great things in the world. Quintessentially a cradle to grave. The film shows us the day he was born. And Cohan was alive, obviously, when the film came out because he's attended the premiere. But he's old as hell at the time. So it's like a life story, totally. Hits all of the big notes. It's like a quintessential biopic. It just happens to be really fucking good because Michael Curtiz is a great director and James Cagney is out of this world good as Cohan. We think of Cagney as like this sort of weaselly, wiry, tough guy, but he was a song and dance man. He was a vaudevillian. He came up through, doing that as a career, and he just sort of stumbled his way into gangster pictures. And so this is the movie where he really gets to show off. He can sing, he can dance, he can do all sorts of crazy shit. He can banter, he can tap dance down a stairs in what was apparently an improvised scene, and who knows really. But so yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it other than just I think it's really enjoyable. I was resistant to this film for years because I find Cohan's music to actually be kind of shitty. But I don't think it needs to be good for the movie to work. It's like such a great story about like the spirit of the American stage as filtered through this man and this really amazing performance. And as a wartime, it's totally wartime propaganda. Like it's straight up like we're in war now. It's 1942. So let's have all of these great songs about how we're going to go over to Europe and kick the Germans' asses and stuff like that. So yeah, it's dated and there's like some morally questionable parts to it in terms of how very much it is like a pro, let's kick the Germans' asses movie. But it's great. I don't know.
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yankee Doodle Dandy. It's
Yankee Doodle.
Yankee Doody. It's on every single 4th of July. It's like the 4th of July movie.
Okay.
Oh, I've missed it. Yeah. Yeah, I only knew Cagney from his gangster movies.
It's also a black and white film, so Rob. Because it's from
He's getting into
1942.
those, though. He's
slowly but surely. My number, I guess I'm on number, this is my last one.
Your number 2.
My number
Number 2.
And I'll give it away. Yeah, the stylized movie that I left off my number 1 just because it was a documented Frank Abagnale. I was talking about Catch Me If You Can. That's what I had as my number 1. I just enjoy watching
I think
it.
that counts.
That would have counted.
Counts,
That would have
yeah.
counted.
Well, I just thought it was a little too Spielberg,
But-
getting his hands all over it, which is fine.
Okay.
I mean, that's the
can
point.
happen.
I mean, Yankee Doodle Dandy's a little bit too Curtiz.
Yeah, and I
include
say
it.
that, and then I bring my number 2 to the table, and we talked about Rudy already, but this is Scorsese, so I didn't have Raging Bull, but I do have The Aviator. Yeah, because I was really fascinated, not knowing a lot about Howard Hughes, and then this focuses on Howard Hughes from the late 1920s up through the to the mid 1940s, documenting the life of one of the wealthiest people in the United States
history, really.
in history, and also just one who descended into complete madness.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Played by Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio also, but we're talking about Howard Hughes.
Oh, right.
Starring also Kate Blanchett, Kate Beckinsale, John C. Reilly, Alec Baldwin as the Pan Am CEO, which was I thought really well cast, well executed role there too. His battles with Pan Am, starting his own. He was TWA, is that right? I think so. He started the airline TWA, and then he was going up against Pan Am, and Pan Am kind of had like a stranglehold on the airplane market.
Should have done Catch Me If You Can. He would have just had like a Pan Am double feature.
Oh yeah, that's right, and a Leo double.
You fucked up.
Yeah.
Man,
I really enjoyed this. I thought Leo's performance in this was extraordinary, going from just exuberant, just overeager young wealthy man to kind of obsessive compulsive, thinking everybody's out to get him, beautiful mind type of anybody on your list type of performance. Made for 110 million, brought in 214 million. I think it's a great movie.
Also a Best Picture nominee. A lot of Best Picture nominees have shown up on this list.
Yeah.
Possibly because it's a very Oscar-friendly category.
Yeah, my entire list is 80% and higher on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's a lot of love. But yeah, that Catch Me If You Can. If I would have kept it on my list, that would have been my number one. But instead, I've got The Aviator. It's my number 2, and Rudy is my number 1.
All right.
All right.
Do you think there's any chance we'll line up on our number 1?
I would be shocked if you've seen my number 1.
I would be shocked if you haven't seen my number 1.
All right.
But my number 1 is so good that I don't know why it's not on your top 5, or anybody's top 5 for that matter, because it documents something that happened a really long time ago. So I thought it would happen to be on your list, but no. So it's a story of a man who became King George IV.
Thought about it. I thought about this.
The father of Queen Elizabeth II. Anything, Tim? He's still working.
He wasn't the 4th. Was he the 4th?
The 4th.
I thought he was the 6th.
No, the 4th.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely the 4th. And after his brother abdicates, George reluctantly assumes the throne. And then the problem is, bit of a speech impediment. Maybe you didn't choose it because the speech impediment.
That's the thing.
Yeah, you were like, he has a problem.
This would not have made my top 5 anyway. To me, this is an event film. To me, this is about how did the king overcome his speech impediment.
It's so good.
That's the reason I thought about it, because I enjoy this movie. But
one of the best movies I've ever seen.
I didn't consider it, but I did disqualify it just to be on the safe side.
So anyway, 2010's The King's Speech. It is so good. This is one of those movies where if people haven't seen it, like my mom, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa, like anybody that I would recommend this movie to anybody. And so anyway, King George IV comes in. He has a little bit of a stammering problem.
Nope, it was totally King George VI, sorry.
No, it's definitely the 4th.
Wikipedia says it was the 6th.
The Wikipedia is brought to you by the people.
Wrong.
And not people. People aren't always right. You better call up Colin Firth and see what he has to say about it.
One of the King's George.
King's George, 4 to 10, comes out, and he's got this stammering problem. So anyway, he has to become the main guy. He has to go out and become the voice of the people. He has to go talk to like thousands of people, and he has this little bit of a stammering problem. So he goes in and he seeks out the help of Lionel. I think it was Lionel Logue.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So he's played by Jeffrey Rush. He goes out, and he's a speech therapist, and he goes out and he befriends him, and it's the relationship between the two of them where he teaches him to harness his past and what's caused his stuttering, as well as to move forward and kind of look beyond it and to be able to try and help him with his problems so that he can go out and become the leader of the people. This movie was just a 5-star top movie for me. Yeah, every bit of this movie I
like the techniques that they employ. Like I don't know much about stammering or stuttering. I don't know the differences even between those two things, but I just really liked what Logue's approach was, and Jeffrey Rush's performance. Did you not like him and Colin Firth?
I think it's a fun movie.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I agree, it's not a biopic in my book, but
because this is a real person. So actually, King George was actually a real person who lived. Understood. King George 4 to 10.
It's not a big of. I want to know him as about a boy a little bit more growing up.
And you see Queen Elizabeth as a little girl too.
You do. That's true.
And she's a little kid, and she's super cute.
Yeah.
So I love this movie. And this is why it's everybody's number 1. I think it's probably going to be number 1 on the top listener picks.
We'll see.
So I just want to throw some stats out before we get to my number 1, including my number 1. Out of the 14 films we've mentioned on our top lists, 9 were Best Picture nominees, 3 were Best Picture winners, to attest to how very much this is an Oscar-friendly genre. And I have one of those Best Picture winners right here. This is the story of Lawrence of Arabia. David Lean's 4-hour epic about the life of T.E. Lawrence, who was this British soldier during World War I who was sent on a mapping expedition, came to know the native population of the Arabian Peninsula, and succeeded in uniting the various Arab tribes to help fight against the Turks, to sustain the British Empire's control over the region, and in the process of doing so, realized that he didn't really particularly want to be a Brit anymore, more or less. This is, to me, the perfect example of a vast, epic movie. See it on 70 millimeter if you ever get the chance, sort of like landscape-driven event film spectacular that's also this incredibly winnowed down, intimate character study of this man who basically does not have an interior self and goes out into the desert to hide that fact and then has to confront it. And that's the arc. Like Lawrence, there is no Lawrence, and he, over the course of 4 hours / many years, deals with that fact. Peter O'Toole, in his first film performance, plays T.E. Lawrence, one of the all-time great.
I had no idea it was his first film.
Peter O'Toole, what else is he in?
Film.
I've heard
Lots
of him.
of shit. He's a good actor.
That's the handsome man.
I know. I picture someone handsome. Yeah.
Tim tried to convince you he was handsome.
Peter O'Toole.
He is handsome. There's no convincing.
Is he in the Christmas movie?
Which one?
You know, where it's really sad and, you know, what's the Christmas movie that everyone watches? It's A Wonderful Life.
No.
Is he in that?
No, that's long before his time.
Oh.
The one you'd probably know him for, he's the from Troy. He's the
he's King Priam.
King Priam.
He's also in.
Yeah.
Actually, I take it
Nope,
back.
that's
Turns
all
out
you
it
had
was
to say.
not his. It was his first starring role. It was his third film overall. I take it back. He was in Lawrence of Arabia. He was in Beckett.
Yep,
He was in
no,
The Lion
I'm good.
in Winter, where he plays
I
him
got
in the
him.
second, which
Yep.
is also a great
300. I
performance.
got him.
Yep.
Not 300.
Troy.
Oh, Troy. I don't got him. I'm just going to look.
You
his
are
face up.
thinking of Gerard Butler.
I was like, oh, he is really
No,
good looking.
you and Tim brought up Peter O'Toole. And
Yeah,
Tim
yeah,
tried
yeah.
to try to talk you into it, and you weren't going for it.
There's no talking. He's
I
a
got him.
handsome
That was
man.
his character.
I
He
got
has
him.
the bluest eyes.
I got him. I know who he is now.
Anyway, Lawrence of Arabia,
I have not seen this, Tim.
one of the canonical. I'm not surprised. If you'd seen it, it would have been on your list for sure.
What? So this is a must-see.
This is a
for
must see.
everybody.
This is one of the canonical masterpieces of English language cinema. It's the best epic.
Yeah, I had no idea it was a biopic too. I thought it was just.
I think it meets the definition of a biopic. I'm comfortable calling it that. See it on the biggest screen you can possibly get your hands on is basically the rule here. But if you haven't seen it and you care about, if you're any kind of film student, you need to see this film.
What do you say, Kara? Should we see this sometime?
Yeah, sure.
It's a long one, right?
You
it's
own
almost
it,
4
I'm
hours
sure.
long.
4 hours long.
Yeah, but you don't want to watch it on TV. You want to
No.
watch it on a big ass screen. I've seen it on 70 millimeters.
I'll get it on the iPhone. I'll check it out on a plane trip.
And I just want to raise a question since none of you had it on your list.
Is it
So I
on YouTube?
suspect
Yeah.
that you agreed with me. There was a film that I wrestled with for days on the question: is this a biopic?
I'll tell you.
Schindler's List.
I had it on as number 7, but it was too sad, and so I pulled it off.
I feel like, it tells me a lot about Oskar Schindler. It covers several years of his life.
Yep,
It's a
no, it
character
makes
study.
it.
He's in the title. It's everything. But calling it a biopic feels like it's trivializing it somehow.
Yeah.
I can see what you mean with the topic, but I think if you're just trying to think about, is it covering a point in somebody's life, then yeah.
Yeah, I went back with it's more of an event.
But is it?
I don't know. I struggled with it. I left it off.
Isn't just an
Yeah.
event. Like there is an event, and that's the important part of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I couldn't call this.
This is
a
where it was
biopic.
more subjective and based on feelings.
This is the one when I said there's basically one that I just didn't feel it.
Yeah.
And this is the one I just didn't feel.
It doesn't feel like a biopic to me.
It doesn't.
Every week we ask you to share your picks as well.
Your
biopicks, and for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental based on results. Here are your top 5 picks, or basically I should just call them the Tim picks, because it's pretty much 100%
Come on,
in
Apollo
alignment.
13. Come on.
Except for our number 5, Malcolm X.
I have not seen Malcolm X in full. I really wanted to watch it before this episode. It's 3.5 fucking hours long.
That's the one with the scene, right? With the
scenes.
curb.
Presumably there
And the
are.
teeth.
No, that's
American History X.
There's an
I've
X.
made this mistake before. I can remember that now.
Malcolm X is a person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Played by
He's a
Denzel Washington.
noted
I should
black
see that.
activist.
I should see that. Yeah.
So other than that, Tim, 100% lineup with Ed Wood at number 4, Raging Bull at number 3, Amadeus at number 2, and number 1, Lawrence.
So not just lineup in
like
order.
like 100%.
Although y'all let me down on Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Boo. So that's really, we feel really bad for you,
George
Tim.
M. Cohan dances down the stairs.
And our lucky winner this episode, It's Tune, audience member It's Tune from our website, who picked Jackie, The Trial of Joan of Arc, which there was much debate on whether or not...
Trial of Joan
Yeah,
of
so
Arc?
yeah.
Interesting.
They went with
There's
Trial.
the Trial and the Passion. They're two different movies.
And
They're
both
the same
were-
plot.
Both were debated on whether or not it qualified as...
Passion to me very much as just an event movie. And like I said, Jackie was one that I wrestled with.
In Cold Blood, The Color of Pomegranate.
Pomegranate?
Oh, that is a biopic. That one falls a fall of my... It can't be an art film.
Okay. And then The Naked Civil Servant.
I've never even heard of that.
Okay. It's Tuned.
Deep cuts. Nice done.
Shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like It's Tuned, be on the lookout for a spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, thanks for listening. Check us out on social media. Go out to our Facebook page and like it. Check us out on Twitter, where we're tweeting all of our updates there regularly. Go out to alternateending.com, where you can find all of our movie reviews, blog posts, podcasts, and more. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Care. Any new reviews?
We don't. But leave a review.
Why not? Do you not love us?
I know, but leave a review because those are really
I have
nice.
to have another chocolate now.
I know. I'm going to take a picture of all the chocolates you've eaten and share those
there's
to
no
make you
reason
feel
to do
bad.
that.
Yeah.
And don't forget to...
I wanted to try one of each flavor.
I know. And there's
4.
70 flavors.
There are... No.
Don't forget to go out to our Patreon as well. Check out all of that exclusive content that we were talking about. We're going to be doing Olaf's Crazy Adventure, Adventure.
Olaf goes bananas.
And next episode with Disaster Artists flopping into theaters.
Disaster artists?
Yeah, The Disaster
The
Artists.
Disaster Artist is the title of a biopic.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, although it would probably
kind
meet
of
my
like a-
definition of an event film.
Yeah. We look at the top 5 movies so bad they're good because it's based on
It's the making of The Room.
It's the making of The Room.
Which is, in fact,
Have I
so
seen The
bad
Room?
that if you haven't, you need to.
That's the one where the little boy and the mom are trapped
No.
in.
Nope. This is the one where the guy is so great and he loves Lisa so much, but Lisa's terrible and has an affair with his friend Mark. And what's his name? Is it Andy? What's his name? Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau. I don't
has
know
a
his
name.
Yeah, he does have a name.
Oh,
Johnny.
Johnny.
Johnny is such a good guy.
Yeah.
And Lisa cheats on him and
Yeah.
she tears him apart.
Sounds
See
good.
that.
I'm
You
really
need to see
excited
The
for this
Room.
episode.
You need to see The Room.
Yeah.
Top 5 movies so bad they're good. We'll catch you next week.